I am Barrett, a professional MMA fighter with 7 years in the octagon. My record speaks for itself with 15 wins and only 2 losses. Until recently, I thought I had it all: a successful career, and what I believed was a happy marriage to Amanda, my wife, of 5 years. I had been training harder than ever for the biggest fight of my career when I discovered strange text messages on her phone. Little did I know that my opponent, Jackson Taylor, was not just a rival in the ring, but also the man secretly sleeping with my wife. Before I tell you how I discovered my wife's betrayal and what happened in that career-defining fight, tell me where you are watching from. And hit that subscribe button if you have ever had to stand up for yourself when someone did you wrong. My journey to professional fighting was not an overnight success. I started in the amateur circuits, working my way up through local competitions while holding down a day job as a personal trainer. Every night after work, I would train for hours, perfecting my technique and building my stamina. The sacrifice paid off when I finally earned my pro card and could focus on fighting full-time. I met Amanda at a charity event 6 years ago. She was volunteering, handing out water to runners at a marathon that was raising money for childhood cancer research. I noticed her immediately, not just because of her striking blue eyes and warm smile, but because of the genuine care she showed to everyone who passed by her station. When I finished my run, I circled back to talk to her, and we clicked instantly. Our relationship progressed quickly, from dating to engagement to marriage, in just a year. Everyone said we were the perfect couple. She supported my fighting career wholeheartedly, attending every match and helping me stick to my strict diet and training regimen. I thought we had built something unbreakable. When I signed with Ultimate Fighting Championship, it seemed like all my professional dreams were coming true. The contract meant more money, more exposure, but also more responsibility. My training schedule intensified often, meaning 12-hour days at the gym. Amanda said she understood that this was what we had been working toward all along. The first signs that something was wrong were subtle. Amanda started staying out later with her friends. Her clothing style changed, becoming more revealing than what she typically wore. She put a password on her phone, claiming she needed privacy from my occasional borrowing. I dismissed these changes, chalking them up to her having more free time while I was focused on training. One day at the gym, my training partner Marcus made an odd comment that stuck with me. He mentioned seeing Amanda at a restaurant downtown with a friend when she had told me she was shopping with her sister. I brushed it off, thinking Marcus must have been mistaken. But then I found receipts in her purse from restaurants and bars I had never visited with her. When I asked about them, she became defensive, saying they were from girls' nights out that she did not want to bother me with, since I was so focused on my upcoming fight. The truth came crashing down one night after a particularly grueling training session. I was icing my shoulder in the living room when I noticed Amanda's phone lighting up repeatedly on the coffee table. She was in the shower, and normally I would respect her privacy, but something felt off. The messages were coming from someone saved simply as Jay, and they were explicit, detailing what they had done together the previous day and what they planned to do the next time they met. My hands shaking, I opened her photo gallery. There, they were pictures of Amanda, with a man whose face I recognized instantly. Jackson Taylor, the very opponent I was scheduled to fight in 3 weeks for the middleweight championship. The realization hit me like a knockout punch, leaving me breathless and disoriented. When Amanda came out of the shower, I confronted her immediately. Her first instinct was to deny everything, claiming I was invading her privacy. When I showed her the messages, she changed tactics, admitting there was something going on, but swearing it was only an emotional affair, that nothing physical had happened. That lie fell apart when I scrolled further back in their message history, finding detailed accounts of their encounters, including one in our own home while I was at an overnight training camp. The betrayal was complete and devastating. Amanda tried to blame my absence, my dedication to fighting, anything but her own choices. She cried, she pleaded, but all I felt was a cold, hard resolve forming in my chest. I would not let this derail the biggest opportunity of my career. I would use this pain, this anger, and I would channel it into the fight. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life. Sleep became a luxury. I could rarely afford as my mind constantly replayed images of Amanda with Jackson. My performance at the gym suffered initially with my coach Troy, noticing my distraction and decreased focus. After a particularly bad sparring session where I took hits, I should have easily avoided. Troy cornered me in the locker room. I broke down and told him everything. To his credit, he did not offer empty platitudes or suggest I forget about it. Instead, he helped me develop a plan to use my emotions as fuel rather than let them consume me. We decided to keep the situation private from the promotion company and media. If word got out about the personal angle to our fight, it would become a circus that neither of us needed. This was between Jackson, Amanda, and me, with resolution to come in the octagon. With Troy's guidance, I restructured my training to incorporate my emotional state. We added more high-intensity sessions, where I could channel my anger productively. Each punching bag became Jackson's face, each grappling dummy his body. Meanwhile, I studied his fighting style more intensely than ever before, identifying weaknesses I had previously overlooked. My home life had become a minefield. Amanda and I were sleeping in separate rooms, the tension between us palpable. She continued to downplay the affair, attempting to manipulate me with tears and promises that it was over, that she had made a mistake. My trust was shattered completely when I discovered texts on her phone sharing details about my training progress with Jackson. She was telling him about a rib injury I was nursing, suggesting he target my left side in the fight. She had even wished him luck against me, her own husband. The betrayal went beyond their physical relationship. She was actively trying to sabotage my career. Her friends started calling me, trying to convince me to forgive her. They painted her as the victim, claiming she had been lonely and neglected. One even suggested that my focus on fighting meant I had abandoned her emotionally, as if that justified her actions. I stopped answering their calls. The week before the fight, I had my first face-to-face encounter with Jackson at the media day. He swaggered into the room with the confidence of a man who thought he had the upper hand both professionally and personally. What he did not know was that I was fully aware of his betrayal. During our promotional face-off, he smirked at me, the kind of look that suggested he knew something I did not. I maintained my professional composure, saying only that I was prepared for the fight of his life. The double meaning was lost on him, but gave me a small sense of satisfaction. Amanda texted that evening asking to attend the fight. I refused, telling her that her presence would only be a distraction. She argued that as my wife, she should be there to support me. The hypocrisy was almost laughable. Later, I discovered she had purchased tickets anyway, planning to attend regardless of my wishes. The final days before the fight were a blur of last-minute preparations, weight cutting, and media obligations. Through it all, Troy remained my rock, keeping me centered and focused on the task at hand. He reminded me constantly that the best revenge would not come from confrontation outside the ring, but from victory within it. The night before the fight, I found myself alone in my hotel room, thoughts of Amanda and Jackson threatening to overwhelm me. I called Troy, who talked me through a visualization exercise. Instead of imagining what they had done together, he had me visualize exactly how the fight would go. Each move, each counter, each step toward victory. I fell asleep with those images in my mind, ready for what was to come. The arena was electric as I made my way to the octagon. 20,000 fans, creating a wall of sound that vibrated through my body. Under the bright lights, with adrenaline coursing through my veins, I felt a clarity I had not experienced since discovering the affair. This was my territory, where I excelled, where I belonged. As I waited for Jackson to make his entrance, I scanned the crowd and spotted Amanda 6 rows back. She was wearing the red dress I had bought her for our anniversary, a detail that sent a fresh wave of anger through me. I channeled it immediately, using it to sharpen my focus rather than cloud it. Jackson entered with his typical showboating, playing to the crowd and making a show of confidence. When our eyes met across the octagon, I saw no guilt, no recognition that he had violated not just a professional rivalry, but a sacred trust. In that moment, I knew he deserved everything that was coming to him. The first round began cautiously, both of us circling testing defenses with jabs and leg kicks. Jackson landed a solid right that rocked me briefly, following it with a whisper during a clinch. "Have you been sleeping well?" The insinuation was clear. He knew I knew, and he was trying to use it to get in my head. Instead of responding, I used his momentary gloating to land a sharp elbow that opened a cut above his eye. The crowd roared as first blood was drawn. The look of surprise on his face was satisfying, but just the beginning of what I had planned. The second round saw more exchanges, with Jackson attempting to implement the strategy Amanda had revealed to him, targeting my left side. I had anticipated this, using it to bait him into overcommitting and leaving himself vulnerable to counterattacks. By round 3, frustration was evident in his increasingly wild swings. During another clinch, Jackson made his fatal mistake. "Your wife moans my name now," he whispered, thinking it would break my concentration. Instead, it crystallized my resolve. As we broke apart, I executed the combination Troy and I had perfected, a feint to his right that drew his guard down, followed by a devastating left hook that connected perfectly with his jaw. Jackson staggered, his eyes momentarily vacant. I pressed my advantage, unleashing a barrage of strikes that drove him against the cage. With nowhere to retreat, he absorbed punishment until his knees buckled. As he fell, I landed the final blow, a perfectly timed uppercut that sent him crashing unconscious to the mat. Standing over him as the referee pushed me away, I leaned down and whispered, "She was never worth either of our time." The irony was that in that moment of victory, with the crowd chanting my name and the championship belt about to be placed around my waist, I felt no joy, only a grim satisfaction and the weight of decisions yet to come. The post-fight interview was a blur. I maintained professionalism, crediting my team and training, making no mention of the personal vendetta that had driven me. As the adrenaline began to fade, the reality of what came next settled heavily on my shoulders. In the locker room, as my team celebrated around me, security informed me that Amanda was trying to get in to congratulate me. I instructed them to turn her away. This victory was not one she had any right to share in. My team, aware of the situation, thanks to Troy, created a protective bubble around me, allowing me the space to process everything that had happened. We celebrated at a private party at the hotel, where I put on a brave face and accepted congratulations from sponsors, promotion executives, and fellow fighters. Inside, I was preparing for the confrontation I knew awaited me at home. Amanda was waiting when I arrived, acting as if nothing had happened, as if she had not betrayed me in the most fundamental way possible. She attempted to embrace me, to congratulate me on my win. I stepped back, put down my bags, and told her calmly that I knew everything, not just about the affair, but about her sharing my training information with Jackson. At first, she tried denial again, but when I showed her the screenshots I had taken of her messages, the facade crumbled. She broke down, completely admitting that the affair had been going on for months, that it had started at a promotion event I had been too busy to attend. She claimed it had been a mistake, that she still loved me, that we could work through this. As she spoke, I went to our bedroom and began packing her things. She followed me her pleas, turning to anger, then back to begging as she realized I was serious. I worked methodically, placing her clothes in suitcases, her personal items in boxes. When she tried to take items we had bought together, I stopped her. She had sacrificed her right to our shared life the moment she chose to betray it. I called her parents, explaining the situation and asking them to come get her. To their credit, they did not try to defend her actions. They arrived an hour later, helping load her things into their car, while she alternated between crying and trying to convince me to change my mind. As they prepared to leave, I returned my key to her, symbolically closing that chapter of my life. The look on her face as she realized this was truly the end will stay with me forever. Not a source of pleasure, but a reminder of the consequences of broken trust. The next morning, I met with a divorce attorney recommended by a teammate who had gone through something similar. We discussed the process, the division of assets, and potential complications. I was relieved to learn that my recent winnings could be protected, as they came after the separation. Amanda attempted to access our joint accounts, but I had already transferred my fight earnings to a separate account on my attorney's advice. When she discovered this, the text started alternating between threats and tearful pleas for reconciliation. 2 weeks later, I had divorce papers delivered to her at her parents' house. She called immediately, shocked at how quickly I was moving forward. She had expected me to cool off, to be open to counseling or reconciliation. She did not understand that some betrayals cannot be undone, some trust cannot be rebuilt. As news of our separation leaked to MMA blogs and social media, the full story of the affair began to circulate. Jackson's reputation in the fighting community took a hit, with many fighters and fans expressing disgust at his lack of professional ethics. I maintained my dignity, refusing to comment publicly on the personal aspects of the situation, focusing instead on my training and upcoming fights. The weeks following the divorce filing were a strange mix of professional triumph and personal emptiness. Our house, once filled with shared dreams and plans, felt cavernous and cold. I found myself staying later at the gym, avoiding the silence that awaited me at home. On the advice of Troy, I started seeing a therapist who specialized in working with athletes. She helped me process not just the betrayal, but the public nature of it all. The added layer of humiliation that came with everyone knowing your personal business. I also joined a support group for people going through divorce, finding comfort in the shared experiences of others who understood the unique pain of having a spouse choose someone else. While my personal life was in shambles, my professional stock had never been higher. The decisive victory over Jackson had cemented my place as one of the top fighters in the division. New sponsorship offers came in weekly, and the promotion was already talking about my next title defense. I poured myself into training, using the structure and discipline of my fighting career to rebuild my sense of self. I expanded my training to include new techniques and approaches, challenging myself to evolve as a fighter. The physical exhaustion helped me sleep at night, gradually replacing the insomnia that had plagued me since the discovery. Outside the gym, I began rediscovering interests and hobbies that had fallen by the wayside during my marriage. I took up photography again, something I had enjoyed in college but abandoned due to lack of time. I reconnected with old friends who had drifted away, building a support network that had nothing to do with Amanda or fighting. Jackson, meanwhile, was dealing with his own fallout. His loss to me was followed by another defeat 3 months later, leading to questions about his future in the sport. I heard through mutual connections that he had reached out to Amanda after our separation became public, only to be rebuffed. Apparently, his interest had been primarily in the thrill of taking something that belonged to a rival, not in any genuine feeling for her. As I rebuilt my life, Amanda made increasingly desperate attempts to reinsert herself into it. It started with angry messages blaming me for moving on too quickly, for not giving our marriage a chance to heal. When those went unanswered, she switched to apologies, long texts detailing her regret and promises to make things right. Friends would report seeing her at local spots I frequented, clearly hoping for an accidental encounter. She showed up at my gym once, only to be turned away by Troy, who had instituted a strict no-visitors policy for my training sessions. Letters began arriving at my home, sometimes daily, filled with memories of our good times and pleas for forgiveness. I read them all, but responded to none. Each letter, each attempt at contact, only reinforced my decision. The woman I had married, the woman I had trusted with my heart and my life, no longer existed in my mind. Perhaps she never had. 6 months after filing for divorce, with the proceedings nearly complete, I came home from training to find Amanda sitting on the steps of my front porch. Her appearance shocked me, the confident, always put-together woman now looking disheveled and tired. She stood as I approached, her eyes red from crying. She had come, she said, for one last attempt to save our marriage. She knew the divorce would be finalized soon, and she could not bear to let that happen without trying everything possible. As she spoke, she sank to her knees, literally begging me to reconsider, to give her another chance to prove her love and commitment. Looking down at her, I felt something shift within me, not love or desire to reconcile, but a release. The anger that had driven me for months was fading, replaced by a calm certainty that I was on the right path. I helped her to her feet, not wanting to see her debase herself further. I spoke honestly, perhaps more kindly than I had since discovering the affair. I acknowledged that our marriage had not been perfect, that my focus on fighting had created distance between us. But I also made it clear that her choices were her own, that there had been many other ways to address her unhappiness besides betrayal. In that moment, I realized I had finally reached a place where I could wish her well without wanting her back in my life. I told her that I hoped she would find happiness, that she would learn from this experience as I had. But I also made it unequivocally clear that our chapter was closed, that some broken things cannot and should not be repaired. As she left tears streaming down her face, I felt not triumph or vindication, but a quiet peace. The divorce was finalized the following week, the legal end to a relationship that had died months before. 1 year later, I successfully defended my title for the third time. My career was thriving with opportunities I had only dreamed of, now becoming reality. I had moved to a new house, one without memories of Amanda in every room. I had even begun dating again cautiously and with much clearer boundaries than before. Looking back on everything that had happened, I realize now that the betrayal painful as it was forced me to confront weaknesses, not just in my marriage, but in myself. I had placed too much of my identity, too much of my happiness in the hands of someone else. In rebuilding my life, I had created something stronger, more authentic, and ultimately more fulfilling than what I had lost. The lesson I carry forward is not about trust or betrayal, though those are important. It is about the power of choosing yourself, of refusing to compromise your self-respect for the comfort of what is familiar. It is about recognizing that forgiveness does not always mean reconciliation, that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself and others is to move forward separately. Today, I live by my own terms, making choices based on my values and goals rather than fear or obligation. The ring gave me the opportunity to face my wife's lover and emerge victorious. But the true victory came in the days and months that followed as I rebuilt a life that is authentically mine. Have you ever had to make the difficult choice to walk away from something or someone that was hurting you? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. Remember, sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings. Thank you for listening, and never forget, your worth is not determined by how others treat you, but by how you choose to respond.